What if you could transform your 8 hours of sleep into the most powerful hours of mental reprogramming of your life? What if, while your body rests, your subconscious mind could be absorbing exactly the beliefs, patterns, and identity you have always wanted to have? Through the scientifically proven combination of targeted affirmations and gentle hypnosis techniques, you will discover how to use your brain's theta waves, that magical state between wakefulness and deep sleep, to install new beliefs, dissolve old blocks, and literally rebuild your identity from the inside out. Prepare to wake up as a completely new version of yourself, more confident, more prosperous, and more aligned with your true desires. The results can be so profound that you will genuinely be surprised by the person you become. Chapter 1. The Hidden Power of Your Sleeping Hours. What if I told you that you've been wasting the most powerful 8 hours of your entire day? Not your morning routine, not your productive work hours, not even your evening meditation practice. I'm talking about those precious hours when you close your eyes, drift into unconsciousness, and believe you're simply resting. The truth is, while you sleep, your brain enters states of consciousness so receptive, so malleable, so incredibly open to transformation that they make your waking efforts at personal development look like trying to carve granite with a plastic spoon. Right now, as you read these words, there's a part of you that might be skeptical. Good. That skepticism is actually proof of exactly what I'm about to reveal to you. You see, that critical voice, that analytical mind that questions and doubts and resists, is the very guardian that prevents most people from ever experiencing real, lasting transformation. It's the gatekeeper of your conscious mind, and during your waking hours it stands vigilant at the door of your subconscious, rejecting anything that doesn't align with your current programming. But here's where it gets fascinating. When you sleep, that guardian takes a break. The gate swings wide open, and suddenly, your subconscious mind becomes as receptive as a child's, ready to absorb new truths without resistance, without analysis, without the crushing weight of limiting beliefs. Let me share something with you that changed everything for me. Years ago, I spent countless hours in front of mirrors, repeating affirmations until my voice went hoarse. I attended workshops, read books, journaled religiously, and genuinely believed I was doing the work of transformation. And you know what? I saw some results. Small ones, incremental changes that felt like pushing a boulder uphill with my bare hands. I couldn't understand why the process was so exhausting, why every step forward seemed to require monumental effort, why the people I admired who talked about effortless manifestation seemed to be living in a completely different reality than mine. Then I discovered what they knew that I didn't. The real transformation doesn't happen when you're trying. It happens when you're surrendering. And there's no greater state of surrender than sleep. The science behind this is absolutely revolutionary, and it's been hiding in plain sight for decades. Your brain operates on different frequencies throughout the day, measured in hertz, like radio stations broadcasting different programs. When you're awake and alert, you're in beta waves, typically between 1440 Hz. This is your analytical, critical, problem-solving state. It's necessary for navigating daily life, but it's also the state where your ego is strongest, where your resistance is highest, where change is hardest. As you start to relax in the evening, you drop into alpha waves, around 814 Hz. This is where meditation begins to work its magic, where you start to feel more receptive, more open. But here's where most people stop, thinking they've reached the promised land of consciousness work. They haven't even scratched the surface. Because as you drift from wakefulness into sleep, you pass through a magical threshold called the theta state, oscillating between 4-8 hertz. This is the holy grail of subconscious reprogramming. In theta, your conscious mind loosens its grip, your critical faculty dissolves, and your subconscious becomes extraordinarily suggestible. Children spend most of their early years in theta, which is why they absorb beliefs, behaviors, and patterns so rapidly. It's why a single comment from a parent or teacher can shape their entire self-concept for decades. And it's why, when you access theta as an adult, you gain the power to rewrite your programming with the same speed and permanence. But theta is just the beginning of your nightly journey. As you sink deeper into sleep, you enter delta waves, the slowest frequency at 0.54 hertz. This is where your body heals, where your cells regenerate, where the physical restoration happens, and throughout the night, you cycle between these states, including periods of REM sleep, where your brain becomes almost as active as waking, processing experiences, consolidating memories, and quite literally deciding what to keep and what to discard from your day. This is the window, the opportunity, the cosmic gift that most people completely ignore. Your brain is already doing the work of deciding what's true about you and your reality. The question is, are you consciously directing that process, or are you leaving it to random chance and old programming? Here's what the research shows, and this is going to blow your mind. Studies on sleep learning, what scientists call hypnopedia, have demonstrated that the sleeping brain is not only conscious of external stimuli, but actively processes language, responds to suggestions, and integrates new information into long-term memory. In one groundbreaking study, researchers played specific word associations to sleeping participants during slow-wave sleep. When those participants woke up, they had no conscious memory of hearing anything. But when tested, they had learned the associations perfectly. Their subconscious had absorbed, processed, and stored information while their conscious mind was completely offline. Think about that for a moment. Your brain can learn, change, and evolve while you're not even aware it's happening. Now, let me ask you something. If your subconscious can absorb random information while you sleep, what would happen if you deliberately fed it carefully crafted messages designed to transform your deepest beliefs? What if, instead of leaving your nightly reprogramming to chance, to the residue of your day, to the whispers of your old conditioning, you took conscious control and installed exactly the beliefs, the identity, the programming you actually want? This isn't science fiction. This isn't wishful thinking. This is the cutting edge of neuroscience meeting ancient wisdom about the power of the sleeping mind. The greatest teachers of manifestation and transformation have always known this secret, even if they didn't have the scientific terminology to explain it. Neville Goddard talked about the power of assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled as you drift into sleep. Joseph Murphy wrote extensively about impressing the subconscious mind during the drowsy state before sleep. These masters understood intuitively what neuroscience is now proving. The transition into sleep is the most powerful moment for planting seeds in the garden of your subconscious mind. Because in that moment, you're suggestible. In that moment, you're open. In that moment, the walls come down and truth can finally get through. But here's what most people don't understand about this process. It's not just about passively listening to affirmations while you sleep, though that's incredibly powerful. It's about understanding that every single night, whether you're aware of it or not, you're already being programmed. Your subconscious is already absorbing the dominant thoughts and feelings of your day. It's already consolidating your beliefs about yourself, about money, about relationships, about what's possible for you. The question isn't whether programming is happening. The question is, who's in charge of that programming? Is it your conscious, intentional, higher self? Or is it the accumulated fears, doubts, and limitations you've been carrying since childhood? Let me paint a picture for you of what's actually happening in your brain while you sleep. Imagine your mind as a vast library with millions of books representing every belief, memory, and pattern you've accumulated throughout your life. During your waking hours, you're constantly reading from these books. They're determining your thoughts, your emotions, your actions, your results. But at night, the librarian, your conscious mind, goes home. And in comes a night crew with the power to rearrange the entire library, to replace old books with new ones, to rewrite entire sections of your life story. This night crew doesn't question or judge. It simply files whatever information it receives into the permanent collection. Now, if you're not consciously directing what information this crew receives, they're going to keep filing the same old books, the same old stories, the same old limitations. But if you deliberately provide them with new material, carefully written, emotionally charged, and repeated consistently, they will file that instead. And when you wake up in the morning, you'll start reading from an entirely different collection. This is why people who use sleep programming often report such shocking results. They're not just adding new positive thoughts on top of old negative ones. They're not just trying to outthink their limitations. They're going to the source code level and rewriting the fundamental operating system. It's the difference between constantly pushing a car uphill and simply changing the direction the car is facing so that gravity works for you instead of against you. It's the difference between fighting your subconscious programming and becoming a co-creator of that programming. And here's something absolutely crucial that you need to understand. Your subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between what's real and what's imagined with emotional intensity. When you vividly imagine something while in that receptive theta state, as far as your subconscious is concerned, it's happening. It creates the same neural pathways, releases the same neurochemicals, and forms the same beliefs as if you had actually experienced it. This is why athletes who visualize their performance improve almost as much as those who physically practice. This is why people who imagine themselves confident eventually become confident. The brain doesn't know the difference, and when you combine this principle with the heightened suggestibility of sleep, you have a transformation tool more powerful than 1,000 hours of conscious affirmation work. Think about the implications of this for just a moment. Every single night, for 8 hours, you have access to the most powerful personal development laboratory in existence, your own sleeping mind. No expensive seminars, no gurus, no complicated techniques, just you, your intentionality, and the natural intelligence of your brain doing what it already does, but now with conscious direction. The people who understand this, who truly grasp this power, never look at bedtime the same way again. They stop seeing sleep as merely rest and start seeing it as their daily appointment with transformation. They approach their pillow the way an artist approaches a canvas, knowing that in the hours ahead, they're going to paint a new version of themselves into existence. Now I know what some of you might be thinking. This sounds too good to be true. If it were this simple, wouldn't everyone be doing it? Wouldn't we all be transformed beings living our dream lives? And that's a fair question. Here's the answer. Most people have never been taught this. And even those who stumble across the concept don't do it correctly. They listen to generic affirmations that don't resonate with their specific blocks. They use recordings that trigger their conscious resistance instead of bypassing it. They approach it with skepticism and doubt, which creates a conflicting energy that cancels out the positive programming. Or they try it once or twice, don't see immediate results, and give up before the cumulative effect can take hold. Transformation through sleep programming isn't magic where you wake up the next morning as a completely different person, though some people do experience dramatic overnight shifts. More often, it's a gradual rewiring, a systematic rebuilding of your identity, belief by belief, pattern by pattern, until one day you look in the mirror and barely recognize the person you've become. You're more confident, more abundant, more at peace, more aligned with your true desires. And the most beautiful part, it happened without the struggle, without the force, without the exhausting effort of trying to change through willpower alone. It happened because you learned to work with your mind instead of against it. Let me share a profound truth with you. Every single person who has ever achieved lasting transformation has done so by changing their subconscious programming. You can have all the conscious goals, intentions, and desires in the world, but if your subconscious is running old programs of unworthiness, scarcity, or fear, you'll sabotage yourself every single time. This is why people can consciously want success while unconsciously ensuring they fail. This is why someone can consciously desire a loving relationship while unconsciously pushing people away. The subconscious always wins. It's running the show 95% of the time. Your conscious mind is just the tip of the iceberg, barely visible above water. The real power, the real control center, the real you lives in the vast submerged depths below. And accessing those depths during waking hours requires tremendous skill, focus, and often years of meditation or therapy. But during sleep, the depths rise to meet you. The door opens by itself. All you have to do is walk through with the right keys, the right words, the right energy. This is why indigenous cultures, ancient mystics, and wisdom traditions have always recognized sleep as sacred time, as the period when the soul travels, when divine messages arrive, when transformation occurs. They didn't have fMRI machines to measure brain waves, but they knew they felt, they experienced the power of the sleeping consciousness. You are standing at a threshold right now, in this very moment. Behind you is the old way of transformation, the hard way, the forced way, the exhausting grind of trying to change through conscious effort alone. Ahead of you is a different path, the path of working with your natural rhythms, of harnessing the power of your sleeping mind, of allowing transformation to happen in the relaxed, receptive state where real change has always occurred. The choice is yours. But understand this. You're going to sleep tonight, regardless. 8 hours are going to pass whether you use them consciously or not. Your subconscious is going to be programmed during that time, whether you direct it or let it run on autopilot. The only question is, what program are you going to install? As you move forward through this journey, I want you to shift your entire relationship with sleep. Stop seeing it as dead time, as unconsciousness, as simply biological necessity. Start seeing it as your greatest ally in transformation, as your nightly appointment with unlimited possibility, as the laboratory where you become who you were always meant to be. Because that's exactly what it is. Your sleeping hours are not the interruption of your life. They are where your new life begins, every single night, in the darkness, in the silence, in the profound receptivity of a mind finally free from the limitations of waking consciousness. Get ready to discover just how powerful you truly are when you learn to harness the hidden power of your sleeping hours. The transformation awaiting you is beyond anything your current conscious mind can imagine, and that's exactly as it should be, because your conscious mind isn't the one that's going to create it. Your awakened subconscious is, and tonight we begin waking it up. Chapter 2. The Science of Subconscious Reprogramming During Sleep. Now that you understand the hidden power of your sleeping hours, it's time to dive deep into the mechanics of how this transformation actually works. Because understanding the science isn't just about satisfying your intellectual curiosity, it's about building unshakable faith in the process. When you truly comprehend what's happening in your brain, in your nervous system, in your very cells while you sleep, doubt dissolves, skepticism transforms into certainty, and that certainty becomes the foundation upon which your entire transformation is built. Let's start with something extraordinary that most people never learn. Your brain is not one unified entity making decisions and running your life. You actually have multiple brains working simultaneously, each with different functions, different languages, and different levels of access to your conscious awareness. There's your neocortex, the thinking brain, where logic and analysis happen. There's your limbic system, the emotional brain, where feelings and memories are processed. And there's your reptilian brain, the survival brain, where your most fundamental programs for safety and existence run on autopilot. During your waking hours, these three brains are in constant conversation, often in conflict, creating the internal noise that makes change so difficult. But during sleep, something remarkable happens. The hierarchy shifts. The thinking brain quiets down, and the deeper, more primitive structures take center stage. This is where your core programming lives, and this is where real transformation occurs. When you close your eyes and begin drifting towards sleep, your brain doesn't simply turn off like a light switch. Instead, it embarks on a carefully orchestrated journey through distinct stages, each offering unique opportunities for reprogramming. The first stage, lasting just 5 to 10 minutes, is that delicious drowsy state where you're still somewhat aware but your thoughts start to become dreamlike and fluid. This is stage 1 sleep, where you're hovering right at the edge of theta brainwaves. Your muscles begin to relax, your heart rate slows, and most importantly, your critical factor, that analytical guardian we talked about, starts to doze off. This is the golden window that hypnotherapists have used for decades, because suggestions given during this phase bypass your normal resistance and sink directly into your subconscious mind. As you sink deeper, you enter stage 2 sleep, which typically lasts about 20 minutes in your first cycle. This is still light sleep, but your brain waves continue to slow down, punctuated by sudden bursts of rapid activity called sleep spindles. Scientists have discovered that these sleep spindles are directly involved in consolidating memories and integrating new learning. Think of them as your brain's way of taking the experiences and information from your day and deciding what gets filed into permanent storage and what gets discarded. This is absolutely critical for what we're doing, because when you deliberately introduce affirmations and new beliefs during this stage, your brain treats them as important information to be consolidated, just like any other significant learning from your day. You're literally hijacking your brain's natural memory consolidation process and using it to install new programming. Then comes Stage 3, the deep sleep stage, where you enter delta waves and your conscious awareness fades almost completely. This is where your body does its most profound healing work, where growth hormone is released, where cellular repair happens at an accelerated rate. For years, scientists believed that learning during this stage was impossible because the brain seemed too disconnected from external stimuli. But recent research has shattered that assumption. Studies show that even in deep sleep, your brain continues to process sounds, particularly the emotional tone and certain key words. More fascinating still, the brain can form new associations and even learn new information during delta sleep, though the process is different from waking learning. It's more intuitive, more holistic, more integrated at a cellular level. When you expose yourself to carefully crafted affirmations during deep sleep, you're not just changing your thoughts, you're changing the very frequency at which your cells vibrate. But here's where the magic really intensifies. Throughout the night, you don't just go through these stages once. You cycle through them multiple times, typically 4 to 6 complete cycles in an 8-hour night. And after the first 90 minutes or so, a new stage emerges in each cycle called REM sleep, or rapid eye movement sleep. This is where your most vivid dreams occur, where your eyes dart back and forth beneath your closed lids, where your brain becomes almost as active as when you're awake. During REM sleep, your brain is doing something absolutely extraordinary. It's processing emotional experiences, integrating learning, and literally rewiring neural pathways based on the dominant thoughts and feelings you've been experiencing. This is why trauma often gets processed during REM sleep, why creative solutions to problems suddenly appear in dreams, why you sometimes wake up with completely new perspectives on situations that seemed impossible the day before. Now, here's what makes REM sleep so powerful for our purposes. During this stage, your brain is highly receptive to emotional content and symbolic meaning. It's actively looking for patterns, for themes, for narratives to integrate into your sense of self. When you feed your brain positive, empowering affirmations throughout the night, REM sleep takes that material and weaves it into the fabric of your identity. It's not just storing information. It's rewriting your story at the deepest level. This is why people who use sleep programming often report dramatic changes in their dreams first. Dreams where they're more confident, more successful, more loved, more powerful. Those dreams aren't random. They're your brain's way of testing out the new programming, of trying on the new identity before bringing it into waking reality. Let me introduce you to one of the most revolutionary concepts in modern neuroscience: neuroplasticity. For most of human history, we believed the brain was fixed, that after childhood your neural pathways were set in stone, and transformation was essentially impossible. We now know this is completely false. Your brain is constantly changing, constantly rewiring, constantly creating new neural pathways and eliminating unused ones. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every experience you have is physically changing the structure of your brain. This process never stops. The question isn't whether your brain is being shaped. The question is, what is shaping it? For most people, it's the unconscious repetition of old patterns, old thoughts, old reactions. Their brains are being shaped by default, by habit, by the past. But when you understand neuroplasticity, you realize you can shape your brain by design. Here's how it works at the cellular level, and this is going to change everything for you. Neurons, the cells that make up your brain, communicate through electrical and chemical signals. When two neurons fire together repeatedly, they form a connection, a pathway. The more often they fire together, the stronger that pathway becomes. This is the basis of all learning, all memory, all habit formation. There's a saying in neuroscience, neurons that fire together, wire together. Every time you think a thought, you're causing specific neurons to fire. When you think that same thought again, those same neurons fire again, and the pathway gets stronger. After enough repetition, that pathway becomes a superhighway, and the thought becomes automatic, unconscious, part of your default programming. This is how beliefs get formed. This is how your identity gets constructed. You are literally the sum total of your most repeated thoughts and emotions. Now here's where sleep becomes your greatest ally. During sleep, especially during deep sleep and REM sleep, your brain goes into high-speed neuroplastic mode. It's pruning away weak connections and strengthening important ones at a rate far exceeding what happens during waking hours. This is why sleep is so crucial for learning, for memory consolidation, for skill development. But here's what most people miss. Your brain doesn't distinguish between real experiences and vividly imagined ones when it comes to building neural pathways. When you repeatedly expose yourself to affirmations while sleeping, when you hear statements about your worthiness, your abundance, your capabilities, your brain starts building the neural pathways associated with those states. It begins wiring you for success, for confidence, for prosperity, not because those things happened to you externally, but because your brain experienced them as true internally. There's a specific structure in your brain called the hippocampus, shaped like a seahorse, that plays a crucial role in forming new memories and spatial navigation. But its function goes far deeper than simple memory storage. The hippocampus is essentially the gateway between your conscious experience and your long-term memory storage. It decides what's important enough to remember permanently and what can be forgotten. During sleep, the hippocampus becomes incredibly active, replaying the experiences of your day at high speed, sometimes up to 20 times faster than real time. It's essentially asking, what matters? What should I keep? What patterns should I strengthen? This is called memory consolidation, and it's happening every single night whether you're aware of it or not. But here's the extraordinary part. The hippocampus can't tell the difference between a memory of something that actually happened and a memory of something that was vividly suggested during sleep. When you listen to affirmations that describe you as confident, successful, worthy, abundant, your hippocampus processes these statements as experiences to be consolidated. It begins forming memories of you being that person, even though those experiences haven't happened in physical reality yet. And once those memories are formed, once those neural pathways are established, your brain begins to seek out experiences in your waking life that match those memories. You start acting more confidently because your brain has memories of you being confident. You start attracting abundance because your brain has memories of you being abundant. This isn't positive thinking. This is neurological transformation at the deepest level. Let's talk about something called the reticular activating system, or RAS, a network of neurons in your brainstem that acts as a filter for all incoming information. Every second, you're bombarded with millions of bits of sensory data, far more than your conscious mind could ever process. The RAS decides what gets through to your awareness and what gets filtered out. And here's the key. The RAS filters information based on what your subconscious believes is important, relevant, and true about you and your reality. If you have a subconscious belief that you're unworthy of wealth, your RS will filter out opportunities for abundance and highlight evidence of scarcity. If you believe you're unlovable, your RS will filter out signs of affection and magnify rejection. This is why two people can experience the exact same situation and perceive it completely differently. They have different RAS filters based on different subconscious programming. When you reprogram your subconscious during sleep, you're directly influencing what your RAS considers important. You're training your brain to notice different things, to seek out different evidence, to construct a different reality from the same raw data of life. After consistent sleep programming focused on abundance, you'll start noticing opportunities you would have completely missed before. After programming focused on confidence, you'll start perceiving social situations through a lens of capability rather than inadequacy. This isn't magic. It's not the universe suddenly changing to suit you. It's your brain finally being programmed to see what was always there but filtered out by old beliefs. You're not creating a new reality. You're revealing the reality that your old programming kept hidden from you. Now let's discuss the role of the amygdala, your brain's emotional processing center and fear detector. The amygdala is like an overprotective parent, constantly scanning for threats, constantly trying to keep you safe. And it defines safety in a very specific way. Whatever is familiar is safe. Whatever is unfamiliar is dangerous. This is why change feels so uncomfortable, even when you consciously want it. Your amygdala associates your current patterns, even destructive ones, with survival, and it will trigger fear, anxiety, and resistance whenever you try to step outside those patterns. This is the biological basis of the comfort zone, and it's why willpower alone is so ineffective for lasting change. You're literally fighting against a survival mechanism that's been honed over millions of years of evolution. But here's the beautiful thing about sleep programming. You're making changes while the amygdala is less active, while its vigilance is lowered, while the alarm system is temporarily offline. During deep sleep and certain phases of REM sleep, the amygdala's activity drops significantly. This creates a window where new patterns, new beliefs, new identities can be installed without triggering the fear response. And as these new patterns are repeated night after night, they start to become familiar. The amygdala begins to recognize them as part of your normal programming, as safe as the new baseline. Eventually, your old limiting patterns start to feel unfamiliar and uncomfortable, while your new empowering patterns feel like home. You've essentially reverse-engineered the comfort zone, using your brain's own mechanisms to support your transformation instead of sabotaging it. There's also something profound happening with your nervous system during sleep that directly impacts your ability to transform. Your autonomic nervous system has two branches: the sympathetic nervous system, which activates your fight-or-flight response, and the parasympathetic nervous system, which activates your rest and digest response. During your waking hours, especially in our modern stress-filled world, most people spend the majority of their time in sympathetic activation. Their bodies are in a chronic state of mild stress, which makes the brain focus on survival rather than growth, on protection rather than possibility. You simply cannot reprogram effectively when your nervous system is in defensive mode. Sleep naturally shifts you into deep parasympathetic activation. Your heart rate slows, your blood pressure drops, your stress hormones decrease, and your body shifts into healing and regeneration mode. This isn't just physical, it's psychological and neurological as well. In parasympathetic mode, your brain is far more receptive to positive change because it's not preoccupied with survival threats. This is why affirmations and visualization work exponentially better during sleep than during your stressed-out waking hours. You're planting seeds in fertile soil rather than trying to grow a garden in concrete. The state of your nervous system is the state of your receptivity, and sleep gives you 8 hours of optimal receptivity every single night. Let me tell you about something called state-dependent learning, a principle that's going to revolutionize how you think about transformation. What you learn in one state of consciousness is most easily recalled in that same state. Information absorbed while calm is most accessible when you're calm. Information absorbed while anxious is most accessible when you're anxious. This is why people who learn to cope with stress through alcohol end up craving alcohol whenever stress appears. The coping mechanism is state-dependent. Now apply this principle to sleep programming. The beliefs, the identity, the programming you installed during sleep's relaxed, receptive states become most active when you're relaxed and receptive during your waking hours. You're not just changing what you believe. You're changing the state from which you operate, and that changes everything. Think about how most people approach their day. They wake up stressed, immediately check their phone, flood their system with cortisol and adrenaline, and operate from fight-or-flight mode until they collapse, exhausted, at night. In that state, they have access only to their stress-based programming, their survival patterns, their fear-based beliefs. But when you start your programming during sleep, when you wake up from a night of positive reprogramming, you naturally wake into a more resourceful state. You have access to your new beliefs, your new capabilities, your new identity, because those were installed during a parasympathetic state, and they activate most easily when you're in that same calm, centered state. You're not just changing your beliefs, you're changing your baseline state of being. There's a concept in psychology called reconsolidation, and it's one of the most powerful tools for transformation that exists. Here's how it works. Every time you recall a memory, that memory becomes temporarily unstable, malleable, open to change. It's as if the file gets opened for editing. Then when you're done recalling it, the memory gets saved again, but not necessarily in its original form. Whatever you were thinking or feeling while recalling the memory gets incorporated into the new version. This is why therapy works, why traumatic memories can be healed, why your past isn't actually fixed. Every time you remember something, you have the opportunity to remember it differently, to rewrite it, to change its meaning and its emotional charge. Now, during sleep, your brain is constantly pulling up memories for review, consolidation, and integration. It's doing this automatically, without your conscious direction. But when you introduce affirmations during sleep, when you're feeding your mind new narratives about who you are and what's possible, those affirmations get integrated into the memories being reviewed. You're not just creating new beliefs, you're rewriting the emotional charge of old memories, changing the meaning of past experiences, literally reconstructing your personal history in a way that empowers you instead of limiting you. This is why people sometimes report feeling like their entire past looks different after consistent sleep programming, because in a very real sense, it is different. The events are the same, but the story you're telling about those events, the meaning you're extracting from them, the identity you're forming because of them, has been fundamentally transformed. Let me share with you one more crucial piece of the scientific puzzle: the role of theta brainwaves in suggestibility. Remember, theta is that 4 to 8 hertz frequency that you pass through on your way to deep sleep, and again, during certain phases of REM. But theta isn't just a transitional state. It's a state of profound receptivity that has been used by mystics, shamans, and healers for thousands of years. In theta, the barrier between your conscious and subconscious mind becomes thin, almost transparent. Suggestions given during theta don't just reach your subconscious. They bypass all normal filtering and sink directly into your core programming. This is why hypnosis works, why meditation is so powerful, why prayer and ritual have such profound effects when practiced in deeply relaxed states. Children naturally spend much more time in theta than adults, which is why they're so suggestible, so easily influenced, so quick to form beliefs about themselves and the world. A single authority figure saying, "You're not good at math," can create a lifelong limiting belief because it was received during theta. But here's the empowering part. You can access theta every single night as you drift into sleep, and you can use it to install exactly the beliefs you want, instead of the random programming you received as a child. You're essentially reparenting yourself, giving yourself the messages, the validation, the empowering beliefs that perhaps you didn't receive when you were most suggestible. But now you're consciously suggestible, intentionally receptive, deliberately open to the truth of your unlimited potential. Understanding all of this science isn't about becoming a neuroscientist. It's about developing absolute certainty that this process works, that it's not wishful thinking or spiritual bypassing, but a legitimate application of your brain's natural functions toward conscious evolution. When you close your eyes tonight, when you allow these affirmations to wash over you as you drift into sleep, you're not hoping for magic. You're implementing a scientifically validated method for neurological transformation. You're working with your biology, not against it. You're using the same mechanisms that formed your limiting beliefs to install empowering ones. And that understanding transforms everything, because you move from hope to knowing, from wishing to expecting, from trying to allowing. The science proves what the mystics always knew. You are far more powerful than you've been taught to believe, and your sleeping mind is the key to unlocking that power. Tonight, when you rest your head on your pillow, you're not just going to sleep. You're going to the laboratory where miracles are made, one neural pathway at a time. Chapter 3. Nighttime Hypnosis. Accessing your superconscious. The word hypnosis carries so much baggage, so many misconceptions, so many images of stage performers making people cluck like chickens or forget their own names. Let me clear something up right now. Those theatrical displays have almost nothing to do with the profound transformational tool we're about to explore. Real hypnosis, therapeutic hypnosis, the kind of hypnosis that changes lives, is not about control. It's about liberation. It's not about someone else gaining power over your mind. It's about you finally accessing the full power of your own mind. And when you combine hypnosis with sleep, when you use the natural trance state you enter every single night, you unlock something even more powerful than traditional hypnosis. You access what I call your superconscious, the part of you that knows no limitations, that remembers your true nature, that holds the blueprint of who you were always meant to become. Let's start by understanding what hypnosis actually is, stripped of all the Hollywood drama and misconceptions. Hypnosis is simply a state of focused attention and heightened suggestibility. That's it. Nothing mystical, nothing magical, just a natural state of consciousness that you drift in and out of multiple times every day. When you're completely absorbed in a movie and lose track of time, that's a light, hypnotic state. When you're driving and suddenly realize you don't remember the last few miles, that's highway hypnosis. When you're reading a book and the words create such vivid images that you forget where you are, that's a form of hypnotic trance. Your conscious mind steps back. Your critical factor relaxes its guard, and you become deeply receptive to the information flowing into your awareness. This happens naturally, automatically, and completely safely throughout your normal day. Now, what makes sleep hypnosis so uniquely powerful is that you're not trying to create this state. You're simply riding the wave of a state that's already happening. As you transition from wakefulness to sleep, you naturally pass through progressive levels of trance, from light alpha relaxation into deep theta suggestibility. Your conscious mind isn't being forced to let go. It's naturally releasing its grip. Your critical factor isn't being tricked or manipulated. It's simply taking its nightly break. And in that organic, natural surrender, your subconscious opens like a flower, ready to receive new seeds of belief, new programs of possibility, new truths about who you really are. This is why sleep hypnosis often works better than clinical hypnosis sessions, because there's no effort, no resistance, no part of you wondering if it's working. You're simply allowing what already wants to happen. Traditional hypnotherapy, the kind practiced in offices with trained professionals, typically involves what's called an induction, a systematic process of relaxing the body and mind to achieve a trance state. The hypnotherapist might have you focus on your breathing, or visualize walking down a staircase, or progressively relax each muscle group. These techniques are effective, but they require active participation, conscious cooperation, and often multiple sessions to achieve deep levels of trance. With a sleep hypnosis, the induction is handled automatically by your own biology. Your body knows how to relax. Your mind knows how to let go. Your consciousness knows how to shift states. You've been doing this every single night of your entire life. We're simply learning to work with this natural process, intentionally. But here's where it gets fascinating. During sleep, you don't just enter one level of hypnotic trance and stay there. You cycle through different depths throughout the night, from light suggestible states during stage 1 sleep to profound depths during REM sleep, where your unconscious mind is fully engaged in processing, integrating, and restructuring your internal reality. This cycling means you have multiple windows of opportunity each night, multiple moments of peak receptivity where suggestions can sink in at different levels of your psyche. Some suggestions work best during light trance when you're close to consciousness. Others penetrate deepest during those profound REM states, when your symbolic, emotional, creative mind is most active. A well-designed sleep hypnosis program takes advantage of all these windows, layering suggestions at different depths to create comprehensive transformation. Let me explain something crucial about how your brain processes language during sleep, because this is where the real magic happens. When you're awake, you process language primarily in your left hemisphere, the analytical, logical, linear side of your brain. This is where grammar gets checked, where meanings get evaluated against your existing beliefs, where your critical factor scrutinizes every statement for accuracy and validity. But during sleep, particularly during REM and deep stages, language processing shifts. Your right hemisphere becomes more active, the creative, intuitive, emotional side of your brain that thinks in images, feelings, and holistic patterns. This side of your brain doesn't argue with suggestions. It doesn't analyze or criticize. It simply receives and creates, absorbs and integrates, accepts and transforms. This is why the language used in sleep hypnosis is so different from normal conversation. We're not trying to convince your logical mind. We're speaking directly to your emotional, creative, subconscious mind. We use present tense statements that describe desired states as if they're already true. Because your right hemisphere doesn't distinguish between what is and what could be. It simply experiences what it's told is happening. We use repetition, not because you're stupid and need to hear things multiple times, but because repetition creates the neural pathways, the grooves in your consciousness, where new beliefs can flow naturally. We use emotionally charged language because your subconscious responds far more powerfully to feeling than to facts. A statement filled with positive emotion creates stronger neural imprints than a dry, logical assertion. There are specific linguistic patterns that hypnotherapists have refined over decades that make suggestions almost irresistible to the subconscious mind. One of the most powerful is called an embedded command, where a direct suggestion is nested within a larger sentence, so it bypasses conscious scrutiny. For example, instead of saying, "You should feel confident," which your conscious mind might resist, a hypnotic suggestion might say, "And you might begin to notice how naturally confidence flows through you now." The command, "Feel confident," is embedded, delivered below the radar of critical analysis. Another powerful pattern is the presupposition, where the suggestion assumes something is already true and builds from there. As your confidence continues to grow each night while you sleep, presupposes that confidence is already growing, making it harder for your subconscious to argue with the premise. We also use what's called pacing and leading, where we first describe things that are obviously undeniably true to establish agreement and rapport with your subconscious. Then we lead into the suggestions we want to install. You're lying comfortably in your bed, feeling the softness beneath you, hearing these words, and with each breath you take, you're becoming more and more receptive to positive transformation. The first parts are obviously true, which makes your subconscious more likely to accept the latter suggestion as equally true. These aren't manipulative tricks. They're simply ways of speaking the language your subconscious understands, of communicating with the deeper parts of your mind in their native tongue, rather than forcing them to translate from the language of logic and analysis. Now let's talk about the difference between sleep hypnosis and traditional daytime affirmations, because many people confuse the two. Daytime affirmations require you to consciously repeat statements while fully awake, often while looking in a mirror or writing in a journal. This can be valuable, but it faces immediate resistance from your conscious mind. If you say, "I am wealthy," while looking at bills you can't pay, your conscious mind immediately protests. "No, you're not. That's not true. You're lying to yourself." This creates cognitive dissonance, and your brain resolves it by either dismissing the affirmation as false or by requiring enormous repetition over long periods to gradually wear down the resistance. It's like trying to chisel through a granite wall with a plastic spoon. It might eventually work, but it's exhausting. Sleep hypnosis bypasses this entire struggle because your conscious mind, the source of that resistance, is offline. Your subconscious receives the suggestion without argument, without analysis, without the crushing weight of current circumstances as evidence against it. The statement, "I am wealthy," doesn't have to compete with your bank account balance because your subconscious isn't checking your bank account at 3 in the morning. It's simply receiving the statement as information to be integrated, as truth to be woven into your identity, as a new program to be installed in the operating system. This is why people often experience breakthrough transformations through sleep hypnosis after years of unsuccessful attempts with daytime affirmations. They're finally working with their mind instead of against it. There's also a profound difference. in the depth of change achieved through sleep hypnosis versus conscious techniques. Conscious affirmations tend to create surface-level changes, shifts in your thinking, and perhaps your immediate reactions. But sleep hypnosis reaches the deep programming, the core beliefs that were installed in early childhood, the fundamental sense of self that operates below conscious awareness. It's the difference between rearranging furniture in a house and rebuilding the foundation. Both can make a difference, but only one creates structural transformation. When you change your deep programming during sleep, everything built on top of that programming shifts automatically. You don't have to consciously remember to think differently or act differently. You just naturally do, because you're operating from a different foundation. Let me address a concern that many people have about hypnosis: the fear of losing control, of being manipulated, of accepting suggestions that aren't in their best interest. This fear is completely understandable given how hypnosis is portrayed in media, but it's also completely unfounded. Here's a truth that every legitimate hypnotherapist knows: you cannot be hypnotized against your will, and you cannot be made to accept suggestions that violate your core values or well-being. Your subconscious has its own intelligence, its own protective mechanisms, its own discernment. Even in the deepest trance, even in the most receptive state, your subconscious will reject suggestions that are harmful or that conflict with your true nature. It's like a security system that never fully shuts down. In fact, sleep hypnosis is even safer than clinical hypnosis because you're in control of the entire process. If a suggestion doesn't resonate, your mind simply ignores it or rejects it without you even consciously knowing. If something feels wrong, you naturally wake up or shift into a different sleep stage. Your subconscious is always protecting you, always filtering, always ensuring that what gets integrated serves your highest good. The only suggestions that take root are those that align with your genuine desires, your authentic values, your true potential. You're not being programmed by an external force. You're removing the false programming that was installed without your consent and reclaiming your original nature, the powerful, unlimited being you were before the world taught you to be small. Let's explore what happens in your brain during different stages of sleep hypnosis, because understanding this will deepen your trust in the process. During stage 1, sleep, when you're in that drowsy twilight zone, your brain is producing alpha and theta waves simultaneously. Suggestions given during this phase are processed somewhat consciously. You might even remember fragments of what you heard, and they create new thought patterns that are easily accessible during your waking hours. This is perfect for installing new perspectives, new ways of thinking about situations, new mental frameworks that you can consciously draw upon when needed. It's like updating your conscious software with new programs that you can run intentionally. As you sink into stage 2, sleep, with those memory-consolidating sleep spindles firing, suggestions become integrated at a deeper level. You're no longer consciously processing the words, but your subconscious is absorbing them and filing them as important information to be remembered. This is where beliefs start to shift, where your sense of what's true about yourself and your reality begins to transform. The suggestions don't just become new thoughts. They become new knowings, deep certainties that feel like they've always been true. This is the stage where "I am confident" stops being an aspiration and starts being an identity statement, a fundamental truth about who you are. During deep delta sleep, when your conscious mind is completely offline and your body is in profound healing mode, suggestions take on an almost cellular quality. They're being integrated not just mentally or emotionally, but physically, energetically, at the level of your vibration. This might sound esoteric, but research in psychoneuroimmunology has shown that beliefs affect gene expression, that your thoughts influence your cellular function, that your consciousness shapes your biology. When you receive empowering suggestions during deep sleep, you're literally changing your cellular programming, instructing your body to function from a state of health, vitality, and abundance, rather than stress, survival, and scarcity. You're healing from the inside out. And then there's REM sleep, where the real alchemy happens. During REM, your brain is creating narratives, processing emotions, integrating experiences into your sense of self. When you introduce hypnotic suggestions during REM, something extraordinary occurs. Your brain begins creating dream scenarios that embody those suggestions. If you're being told you're confident, you might dream of yourself confidently handling challenging situations. If you're receiving suggestions about abundance, you might dream of wealth, success, and prosperity. These aren't just random dreams. They're your subconscious rehearsing your new identity, trying it on, experiencing it as real, so that when opportunities arise in waking life, you already have the neural pathways, the emotional familiarity, the sense memory of being that version of yourself. There's a concept in hypnotherapy called fractionation, where you bring someone in and out of trance repeatedly to deepen the hypnotic state with each cycle. The natural sleep cycle does this automatically. You drift from wakefulness into light sleep, deeper sleep, REM, then back toward lighter stages, multiple times per night. Each cycle deepens the integration of the suggestions. The first cycle plants the seeds. The second cycle waters them. The third cycle provides sunlight. By morning, you've been through multiple rounds of hypnotic deepening, each one taking the suggestions further into your psyche, each one making them more permanent, more real, more intrinsic to who you are. This is why consistency matters, why listening every night compounds the effects exponentially. You're not just repeating the same suggestions. You're layering them deeper and deeper until they become the very foundation of your being. Now let's talk about something that makes sleep hypnosis even more powerful: the absence of analytical interference. When you attend a hypnotherapy session during the day, part of your mind is always observing, always slightly separate, always maintaining a thread of awareness that you're in a therapeutic setting, doing a technique. That observer part, while not necessarily resistant, does create a subtle layer between you and complete absorption of the suggestions. During sleep, that observer disappears completely. There's no part of you standing outside the experience, analyzing whether it's working, wondering if you're doing it right, comparing this session to the last one. You're fully immersed, fully absorbed, fully receptive, in a way that's almost impossible to achieve through conscious techniques alone. This complete absorption is what allows sleep hypnosis to work on issues that have been resistant to other forms of therapy or self-help. Those deep, stubborn blocks that seem immune to conscious effort often dissolve effortlessly during sleep because they're finally being approached from the right level, in the right state, with the right language. It's like trying to unlock a door. You can pound on it. You can try to force it open with brute strength, or you can simply use the right key. Sleep hypnosis is the key that fits the lock of your subconscious mind perfectly. I want you to understand something profound. Every single person who has ever experienced deep transformation, whether they knew it or not, has done so through a process very similar to hypnosis. Religious conversion experiences, spontaneous healings, sudden insights that change your entire life. All of these involve a temporary suspension of your normal critical thinking, a heightened state of receptivity, and the installation of new beliefs that fundamentally alter your reality. The difference between those spontaneous transformations and what we're doing here is that we're making the process conscious, intentional, and repeatable. You're not waiting for lightning to strike. You're learning to generate your own electricity. Think about the most powerful spiritual experiences people report, moments in meditation where they felt unity with all things, or prayer experiences where they felt divine presence, or plant medicine journeys where they encountered their true self beyond the ego. What all these have in common is an altered state of consciousness where the normal boundaries of self dissolve and something greater comes through. Sleep naturally provides an altered state every single night, a state where your small self, your ego, your limited identity relaxes, and your greater self, your superconscious, your unlimited nature can emerge. When you combine this natural state with intentional hypnotic suggestions aligned with your highest truth, you're essentially having a spiritual experience every night, reconnecting with the part of you that knows no limitations, that remembers your infinite potential, that can reprogram your entire reality because it exists beyond the confines of your current reality. This is why I call it accessing your superconscious, not just your subconscious. Your subconscious holds your programming, your patterns, your conditioning. Your superconscious holds your potential, your purpose, your truth. Sleep hypnosis doesn't just change your programming. It reconnects you to the programmer, the part of you that existed before any limiting beliefs were installed, the consciousness that chose this life, this body, this journey, and from that level of awareness, transformation isn't difficult or gradual or uncertain. It's instantaneous, complete, and absolute, because you're not trying to become someone new. You're remembering who you've always been. As you prepare to experience sleep hypnosis, I want you to release any remaining doubts or fears. You're not giving up control, you're taking it back. You're not being manipulated, you're being liberated. You're not accepting someone else's truth, you're reclaiming your own. Every suggestion you hear is simply reminding you of what your soul already knows, removing the layers of false programming that covered your truth, clearing away the debris so your authentic power can finally shine through. Trust the process. Trust your own inner wisdom to accept what serves you and reject what doesn't. And most of all, trust that you deserve this transformation. You deserve to access the full power of your mind. You deserve to live from your highest potential. You deserve to experience the profound peace and power that comes from finally being aligned with your true nature. Tonight, when you close your eyes, you're not just sleeping. You're stepping into the most powerful transformational state available to human consciousness. You're accessing your superconscious. And from that space, anything is possible. Chapter 4. Affirmations that penetrate the deepest layers. If you've ever stood in front of a mirror repeating affirmations and felt ridiculous, if you've ever written positive statements in a journal only to have that skeptical voice in your head mock you, if you've ever wondered why affirmations seem to work magically for some people and do absolutely nothing for others, this chapter is going to change everything for you. Because here's the truth that most personal development teachers won't tell you. 95% of the affirmations people use are completely ineffective. Not because affirmations don't work, they absolutely do, but because most people are using them wrong. They're speaking the wrong language, at the wrong time, in the wrong way, to the wrong part of their mind. It's like trying to program a computer by shouting commands at the monitor instead of typing them into the keyboard. The hardware is capable, the software is ready, but the method of input is completely ineffective. Let's start by understanding what makes an affirmation actually work at the deepest level. An affirmation is not just a positive statement. It's a declaration of truth that your subconscious mind can accept, integrate, and embody. And here's the critical distinction. Your subconscious mind does not respond to what you want to be true. It responds to what it experiences as true. This is why saying, "I want to be confident," doesn't work, because you're reinforcing the current state of not being confident. You're literally programming your subconscious to maintain the want, the lack, the gap between where you are and where you desire to be. But when you say, "I am confident," stated with emotion and conviction during the receptive state of sleep, your subconscious has no current reality to compare it against. It's not checking your daytime behavior for evidence. It's simply receiving and filing this statement as information about your identity. The first and most important rule of powerful affirmations is this: they must be stated in the present tense, in first person, as if they are already true. Not, "I will be," not, "I want to be," not, "I'm trying to be," but "I am." This isn't about lying to yourself or engaging in positive thinking that denies reality. This is about speaking the language your subconscious understands. Your subconscious exists in an eternal now. It doesn't plan for the future or dwell on the past. It simply experiences this moment. When you declare, "I am," during the hypnotic state of sleep, you're creating a present moment reality for your subconscious to embody. You're not describing a future goal. You're declaring a current truth that your subconscious will then work to manifest in your physical reality. But present tense alone isn't enough. The second critical element of a powerful affirmation is emotional charge. Your subconscious mind doesn't respond to words as abstract concepts. It responds to the feeling behind the words. You can repeat, "I am abundant," 1,000 times with no feeling behind it, and create zero change. But if you say it once with genuine feeling, with the actual sensation of abundance flowing through your body, with the emotion of gratitude and excitement and relief, you create a neural pathway that lights up like a highway. Emotion is the language of the subconscious. It's the carrier wave that delivers the message deep into your programming. This is why during sleep affirmations, the tone, the pacing, the energy behind the words matters as much as the words themselves. Let me explain something that will revolutionize how you construct affirmations. Your subconscious mind thinks in sensory terms, in images, sounds, feelings, tastes, and smells. It doesn't think in abstract concepts or logical arguments. So when you create an affirmation, you need to make it sensory-rich, visceral, experiential. Instead of, "I am successful," which is vague and abstract, you might say, "I feel the deep satisfaction of accomplishment flowing through my body. I see the evidence of my success all around me. I hear the congratulations and recognition from others. I experience myself as successful in every cell of my being." Notice how this version engages multiple senses, creates actual internal experience, gives your subconscious something concrete to latch onto. This is the difference between an affirmation that bounces off your mental walls and one that penetrates to your core. There's a specific structure that makes affirmations exponentially more powerful. and it's based on how your brain processes and stores information. The most effective affirmations follow what I call the identity evidence emotion pattern. First, you state the identity. I am confident. Then you provide evidence that makes it real. Confidence flows naturally through my words and actions. Finally, you anchor it with emotion. I feel this confidence radiating from my core, powerful and unshakable. This pattern works because it mirrors how beliefs are naturally formed. You don't just have a belief floating in space. You have an identity statement, supporting evidence from your experience and an emotional association that makes it feel true. By structuring your affirmations this way, you're creating complete belief packages that your subconscious can install as fully integrated programs. Now let's talk about specificity versus generality in affirmations, because there's a balance to strike here. Affirmations that are too vague don't give your subconscious enough direction. I am happy could mean anything, and your brain doesn't know what to create or how to recognize it when it arrives. But affirmations that are too specific can limit the ways your subconscious can manifest the desire. I am driving a red Tesla Model S with license plate ABC123 is so specific that you're actually constraining the universe's ability to deliver something even better. The sweet spot is what I call essence-specific, where you capture the essence and feeling of what you desire while leaving room for it to manifest in ways you can't yet imagine. I am experiencing profound joy and fulfillment in every area of my life. I am surrounded by abundance that exceeds my expectations. I am living my purpose with ease and grace. Let me share with you some of the most powerful affirmation categories and how to construct them effectively. First, identity affirmations. These are foundational statements about who you are at your core. I am worthy. I am enough. I am powerful beyond measure. I am loved and lovable exactly as I am. These might sound simple, but when repeated night after night during sleep, they rebuild your fundamental sense of self. They're like replacing a cracked foundation with solid bedrock. Everything else in your life shifts when your core identity shifts, because all your behaviors, choices, and manifestations flow from your sense of self. If you believe at the deepest level that you are worthy, you will naturally make choices that reflect worthiness. You won't sabotage yourself because self-sabotage contradicts your core identity. Second, abundance affirmations. These specifically target your relationship with money, success, and material prosperity. But here's the key. Effective abundance affirmations focus on the internal state of abundance rather than external circumstances. Money flows to me easily and naturally from multiple sources. I am a magnet for financial opportunities. Prosperity is my natural state. I feel wealthy in every cell of my being. Notice these aren't about specific dollar amounts or particular achievements. They're about establishing an internal vibration of abundance that then attracts external manifestations. When your subconscious fully embodies the feeling of being abundant, it will find infinite ways to create that abundance in your physical reality, ways you couldn't possibly have planned or predicted. Third, relationship affirmations. These reshape how you experience connection with others. I am deeply loved and cherished. I attract healthy, supportive relationships. I communicate clearly and compassionately. I am worthy of respect and kindness from everyone I encounter. These work because your experience of relationships isn't actually about other people. It's about your internal programming, about relationships. When you change your deep beliefs about how relationships work, about what you deserve, about how people respond to you. Your actual relationships transform as if by magic. You're not changing other people. You're changing the lens through which you perceive and interact with them, and that changes everything. Fourth, health and vitality affirmations. These tap into the profound mind-body connection that modern science is only beginning to understand. Every cell in my body vibrates with health and vitality. My body knows how to heal itself and does so perfectly. I feel energized, strong, and alive. My body is a temple of wellness. The research on psychoneuroimmunology has proven beyond doubt that your thoughts and beliefs directly affect your immune system, your cellular function, your physical health. When you program your subconscious with beliefs of health during sleep, you're literally sending different instructions to your cells, changing your gene expression, optimizing your body's natural healing mechanisms. Fifth, confidence and capability affirmations. These install the deep knowing that you can handle whatever life presents. I trust myself completely. I am capable of learning anything I choose to learn. I handle challenges with grace and wisdom. I grow stronger through every experience. These don't just make you feel better about yourself. They actually change how your brain responds to challenges. Instead of triggering fear and retreat when facing something difficult, your brain starts triggering curiosity and capability. You literally become a different person, not through force of will, but through systematic reprogramming of your automatic responses. Now, let's discuss something crucial: the difference between affirmations that your subconscious will accept and those it will reject. Your subconscious has a built-in believability filter. If an affirmation is too far from your current self-concept, if it triggers too much cognitive dissonance, your subconscious will reject it even during sleep. This is why someone who sees themselves as completely unworthy can't jump straight to "I am perfectly worthy" and have it work. The gap is too large. Instead, you need to use what I call bridge affirmations, statements that feel possible, that create a pathway from where you are to where you want to be. I am learning to see my own worth. I am discovering that I am more capable than I believed. I am opening to the possibility that I deserve good things. These feel possible to your current programming, and once they're integrated, you can move to stronger affirmations. There's also a powerful technique called stacking affirmations, where you build progressively from one state to another within a single statement. With every breath I take, I become more relaxed. As I relax, I become more receptive. As I become more receptive, positive changes flow into my subconscious mind. As these changes integrate, I transform effortlessly. As I transform, my entire life reflects my new reality. See how each phrase builds on the previous one, creating a logical progression that your subconscious can follow. This bypasses resistance because you're not making one huge leap. You're taking a series of small, believable steps that lead to profound transformation. Let me address something that confuses many people: the role of repetition in affirmations. Why do affirmations need to be repeated if they're so powerful? Because you're literally building new neural pathways, and pathways are built through consistent use. Think of it like creating a path through a forest. The first time you walk through, you're pushing through underbrush, struggling to make progress. The second time is a bit easier because some of the obstacles are already cleared. By the 100th time, you have a clear, smooth path that requires no effort to walk. That's what repetition does for neural pathways. Each time you hear an affirmation during sleep, you're strengthening the pathway, making it more automatic, more integrated, more intrinsic to who you are. Eventually, the new belief becomes as automatic as the old one was, except now it serves you instead of limiting you. But here's something most people don't understand about repetition. It's not just about hearing the same words over and over. It's about creating the same feeling, the same internal state, the same neurochemical response repeatedly. This is why affirmations recorded in a monotone voice often fail. They don't create any feeling to repeat. Effective sleep affirmations are delivered with varying tones, pacing, and emphasis to create emotional resonance. They're designed to trigger the actual feeling of confidence, abundance, worthiness, whatever quality is being installed. And it's that feeling, repeated night after night, that rewires your brain. The words are just the vehicle for the feeling. There's a concept in neuroscience called neurons that fire together, wire together, and it's the foundation of all learning and habit formation. When you hear an affirmation about confidence and simultaneously feel confident, even if that confidence is artificially induced through tone and suggestion, those neurons are firing together. Do this enough times, and they wire together, creating a permanent association. Eventually, just thinking the thought of confidence automatically triggers the feeling of confidence, and the feeling of confidence automatically triggers confident behavior. You've created a complete loop, a self-reinforcing system where belief generates feeling, feeling generates behavior, and behavior reinforces belief. This is how affirmations, done correctly, create lasting transformation rather than temporary positive thinking. Let me share a powerful secret about the timing and rhythm of affirmations during sleep. Your subconscious responds better to affirmations that match your natural rhythms, your breathing, your heartbeat, the cycling of your sleep stages. This is why effective sleep programming doesn't just blast affirmations at you constantly. It uses silence strategically, allowing statements to sink in, giving your subconscious space to process and integrate. It varies the pacing, sometimes speaking quickly to engage your conscious mind before it fully shuts down, sometimes speaking slowly and rhythmically to match the deep, slow brain waves of delta sleep. It might repeat certain key phrases at intervals that match your REM cycles, catching you at moments of peak receptivity. This isn't random. It's based on decades of research into how the sleeping brain processes information. Another crucial element of powerful affirmations is what I call permission statements. These are affirmations that give your subconscious explicit permission to change, to let go of old programming, to accept new truth. I give myself permission to be successful. I allow myself to receive abundance. I release all beliefs that no longer serve me. I permit myself to transform completely. These might seem unnecessary, but many people have deep subconscious blocks around deserving change, around being different from their family, around surpassing others in their life. Permission statements clear these blocks. They're like giving your subconscious a signed authorization form that says, yes, it's safe to change. Yes, you're allowed to be different. Yes, you deserve this transformation. Let's talk about the power of I am statements specifically, because these two words are perhaps the most powerful in any language. When you say I am, you're making a declaration of identity, not just describing a temporary state. I am tired is very different from I feel tired. The first makes tiredness part of your identity. The second recognizes it as a passing state. This is why you must be incredibly careful with what follows I am in your self-talk, and incredibly intentional with what follows I am in your affirmations. Every I am statement is a command to your subconscious about who you are. I am powerful. I am creative. I am abundant. I am love. These aren't aspirations. They're declarations of your true nature, and when repeated during the highly suggestible state of sleep, they overwrite whatever false I am statements you've been operating from. There's also profound power in using affirmations that address your subconscious directly. My subconscious mind now accepts these truths completely. My deep inner mind integrates these new beliefs effortlessly. Every part of me aligns with this new reality. When you speak directly to your subconscious, acknowledging it as an intelligent entity that's listening and responding, you create a partnership rather than trying to force change from the outside. Your subconscious becomes an ally in your transformation, actively working to manifest the affirmations rather than passively receiving them. It's the difference between programming a computer and collaborating with an intelligent being. Now let me reveal something that will take your affirmations to an entirely new level. The integration of gratitude. Affirmations that include genuine gratitude are exponentially more powerful than those that don't. I am so grateful for the abundance flowing into my life. I deeply appreciate my body's perfect health. I give thanks for the love surrounding me. Gratitude does something remarkable to your brain chemistry. It releases dopamine and serotonin, the same neurochemicals associated with reward and pleasure. When you combine an affirmation with gratitude, you're essentially telling your brain, "This thing I'm affirming feels good. Create more of it." You're leveraging your brain's reward system to accelerate the manifestation of what you're affirming. Plus, gratitude naturally puts you in a receptive, abundant state, which is the perfect energetic frequency for receiving what you desire. Let's address the elephant in the room. What about affirmations for specific goals or outcomes? Is it okay to affirm, "I have $1 million in my bank account," or "I am in a loving relationship with my perfect partner"? The answer is nuanced. Outcome-specific affirmations can work, but they're less powerful than state-of-being affirmations. Why? Because when you focus on a specific outcome, you're potentially limiting how it can manifest, and you're also making your happiness dependent on that specific outcome arriving. But when you focus on the state of being, on how you want to feel, you open up infinite possibilities for manifestation, and you give yourself access to that feeling right now. "I am financially free and secure" allows abundance to show up in countless ways and lets you feel abundant even before specific evidence arrives. The feeling is the manifestation. The external circumstances are just reflections of the internal state. Here's a framework for constructing the most powerful affirmations possible. Start with a relaxation statement that helps you sink into receptivity. "I am deeply relaxed and open." Then move to a permission statement. "I allow myself to receive this truth." Then the core affirmation stated as identity. "I am abundant beyond measure." Then add sensory detail. "I feel this abundance in every cell. I see evidence of it everywhere. I experience it as my natural state." Then include emotion. "This fills me with joy, gratitude, and peace." Finally, add a future pacing statement that extends the affirmation into your waking life. "I carry this truth with me as I sleep and as I wake, allowing it to guide my every thought and action." This complete structure creates a whole experience, not just a statement, and experiences create transformation far more effectively than information alone. One more critical element. Your affirmations must be aligned with your authentic desires, not what you think you should want, not what others want for you, not what looks good on paper. Your subconscious knows your truth, and it will resist affirmations that aren't aligned with your soul's genuine path. If you're affirming abundance but your soul actually craves simplicity, the affirmations won't take hold. If you're affirming confidence in a career that isn't right for you, your subconscious will sabotage it because it's trying to redirect you toward your true path. This is why the most powerful affirmations often aren't about specific achievements or acquisitions. They're about qualities of being that serve you regardless of external circumstances. Qualities like peace, joy, love, creativity, authenticity. These are universally aligned with human thriving, and affirmations built around these qualities almost always work because they're in harmony with your deepest nature. As we close this chapter, I want you to understand that you're not just learning to construct better affirmations. You're learning to speak the language of creation itself. Words spoken with intention, with feeling, with faith, in the receptive state of consciousness, are literally world-building tools. They don't just describe reality, they create it. Every spiritual tradition has recognized this. In the beginning was the Word. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Life and death are in the power of the tongue. These aren't metaphors, they're describing the actual mechanism through which consciousness shapes form. When you craft affirmations with care, deliver them with conviction, and receive them during sleep's profound receptivity, you're not hoping for change. You're commanding it. You're not wishing for transformation. You're decreeing it. And your subconscious mind, that powerful servant that controls 95% of your life, has no choice but to obey the master's voice. Tonight, you become the master. Tonight, you speak your new world into being. Tonight, your words become your reality. One carefully crafted affirmation at a time. Chapter 5. Awakening Transformed. Integrating your new identity. The moment you open your eyes in the morning is not the end of your transformation. It's the beginning of its manifestation. Everything that happened during the night, every affirmation that sank into your subconscious, every neural pathway that was rewired, every limiting belief that was dissolved, all of that was preparation. The real work, the real magic, happens when you bring that new programming into your waking life, when you allow the person you became during sleep to walk through your day, make your decisions, live your reality. This is where most people fail. They do the nighttime work beautifully, but then they wake up and immediately step back into their old identity, their old patterns, their old story. It's like spending 8 hours renovating a house and then refusing to move into it. Today, you're going to learn how to not just access your transformation, but to embody it, to live it, to become it so completely that your old self becomes a distant memory. Let's start with the first 30 seconds after you wake up, because this brief window is more important than most people realize. Your brain is still in alpha waves, still somewhat connected to the theta state you were in during sleep, still highly suggestible and malleable. This is why what you think and feel in those first moments sets the tone for your entire day. Most people grab their phone immediately, flooding their barely conscious mind with other people's emergencies, news designed to trigger fear and stress, social media that activates comparison and inadequacy. They're essentially erasing the beautiful programming that happened during the night before they even fully wake up. Instead, what you need to do is this. The moment you become aware that you're waking, before you open your eyes, take 3 deep breaths and consciously recall one of your affirmations from the night. Just one. I am abundant. I am confident. I am worthy. Let that truth wash over you. Feel it in your body. Allow yourself to wake up from that feeling rather than waking up into the chaos of your external world. This practice of conscious awakening does something profound. It creates a bridge between your sleeping identity and your waking identity. Instead of experiencing them as two separate people, the confident, abundant, powerful you that your subconscious was becoming during sleep, and the limited, fearful, struggling you that shows up during the day, you're unifying them. You're saying to your entire system, "This is who I am now, continuously, whether I'm asleep or awake, whether I'm alone or with others, whether circumstances look good or challenging." This consistency is what transforms temporary states into permanent traits. This is what makes the change stick. Now, as you physically get out of bed and begin your morning routine, there are specific practices that amplify the integration exponentially. The first is what I call the embodiment check-in. As you move through simple actions like brushing your teeth or making coffee, pause periodically and ask yourself, how would the abundant version of me do this? How would the confident version of me stand right now? How would the worthy version of me treat my body, my space, my time? You're not trying to fake it or force anything. You're simply allowing the new programming to inform your physical reality. You might find yourself standing taller, moving more deliberately, treating your environment with more care and respect. These tiny physical shifts send powerful signals back to your subconscious that reinforce the new identity. Your body is speaking to your mind, confirming what your mind downloaded during sleep. Here's something crucial that most people miss. Your external environment is a mirror of your internal programming. When your subconscious programming changes, your environment must change to match it, or cognitive dissonance will arise, and your mind will revert to the old programming to resolve the conflict. This is why so many people self-sabotage just when they're about to break through. Their external circumstances don't match their new internal state, and the discomfort forces them backward. The solution is to consciously begin aligning your environment with your new identity immediately. This doesn't mean you need to make huge changes overnight, but small symbolic acts send powerful messages to your subconscious. If you've been programming abundance during sleep, maybe you finally pay that bill you've been avoiding, or you clean out your wallet, or you buy yourself one small quality item instead of several cheap ones. These actions say to your subconscious, "I'm serious about this new identity. I'm backing it up with behavior." Let me share something about the nature of identity that will change how you approach your entire day. Your identity is not a fixed thing that you are. It's a continuous performance that you do. Every moment, you're either performing your old identity or your new one, and whichever you perform consistently becomes your reality. This isn't about being fake or inauthentic. It's about recognizing that you get to choose which aspect of yourself to embody. You contain infinite potential identities within you. The person who succeeds is in there. The person who thrives is in there. The person who loves and is loved is in there. Sleep programming gives you access to those identities, but you have to consciously choose to perform them during your waking hours. At first, it might feel like you're acting, like you're pretending to be confident or abundant. That's okay. That's actually perfect. Because within weeks, what felt like acting becomes automatic. What felt like pretending becomes genuine. What felt like trying becomes being. There are specific moments throughout your day that function as integration checkpoints, opportunities to consciously reinforce your new programming. The first is when you encounter resistance or challenge. This is when your old programming will try to reassert itself, when that familiar voice of limitation will speak up. The transformed you doesn't try to silence that voice or fight it. You simply recognize it as old software trying to run, and you consciously choose to run the new program instead. When that voice says, "I can't do this," you acknowledge it and respond. That's the old program. The new program knows I am capable. You're not arguing with yourself. You're simply updating which program you're choosing to execute. Each time you do this, you strengthen the new neural pathways and weaken the old ones. Another critical integration point is how you talk to yourself throughout the day. Most people's internal dialogue is a constant stream of criticism, worry, and limitation. They would never speak to another person the way they speak to themselves. Yet they accept this toxic internal environment as normal. Starting today, you need to monitor your self-talk as vigilantly as you would monitor what a child hears. Every time you catch yourself thinking or saying something that contradicts your new programming, pause and consciously reframe it. Not in a fake positive way that your mind will reject, but in a truthful way that aligns with your new identity. If you make a mistake and think, "I'm so stupid," pause and reframe. "I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm exactly where I need to be." This isn't about never acknowledging challenges. It's about responding to them from your new identity instead of your old one. Let's talk about something fascinating that happens as your new programming integrates. Your perception of reality literally changes. This isn't metaphorical, it's neurological. Remember the reticular activating system we discussed, the filter that determines what information reaches your conscious awareness. As your subconscious programming shifts, your RAS filter shifts with it. You start noticing different things, opportunities you would have missed before, resources that were always there but invisible to your old programming, people and situations that align with your new identity. This is often when people start experiencing what they call synchronicities or lucky breaks. They're not lucky. You're simply finally perceiving the abundance of possibilities that was always present, but filtered out by your old beliefs. Every day, consciously look for evidence of your new programming manifesting. Look for moments when you felt more confident than you would have before. Notice when money shows up from unexpected sources. Recognize when relationships feel easier and more supportive. This conscious noticing reinforces the neural pathways and accelerates the transformation. Here's a powerful practice for deep integration. Create what I call micro-rehearsals throughout your day. These are brief moments, just 30 seconds to a minute, where you close your eyes and vividly imagine yourself embodying your new identity in a specific upcoming situation. Before a meeting, you imagine yourself confident, articulate, valued. Before a difficult conversation, you imagine yourself calm, centered, compassionate. Before any situation where your old programming might try to take over, you preemptively rehearse the new program. Your brain, remember, doesn't distinguish between vividly imagined experience and actual experience. These micro-rehearsals create neural pathways that make the desired behavior more automatic when the actual situation arrives. You're essentially doing during the day what sleep programming does at night, creating neural reality before physical reality. Now let's address something that many people experience and find confusing: the identity integration crisis. As your new programming takes hold, you might experience periods of discomfort, confusion, or even grief. This is completely normal and actually a sign that real transformation is happening. Your old identity, even if it was limiting and painful, was familiar. It was home. There's a part of you that might resist leaving it behind, even as you consciously desire to change. You might find yourself mourning who you used to be, or feeling disoriented, as if you don't quite know who you are anymore. This is the chrysalis stage, where you're no longer the caterpillar but not yet fully the butterfly. The key is to not interpret this discomfort as a sign that something is wrong, or that you should go back. It's actually evidence that you're in the middle of profound transformation. Move through it with compassion for yourself, trusting that what's on the other side is worth the temporary discomfort of the transition. Let me share something about the social dimension of transformation that catches many people off guard. As you change, the people around you will respond in various ways. Some will celebrate your transformation, genuinely happy to see you stepping into your power. Others will feel threatened by it, consciously or unconsciously, because your change highlights the possibility of their own change, which they're not ready for. They might try to pull you back into old patterns, old roles, old dynamics. They might mock your new behaviors, question your changes, or actively sabotage your progress. This isn't because they're bad people. It's because humans are wired to maintain the status quo in their social systems. Your transformation disrupts that system. The integrated you doesn't fight against this resistance, but you also don't allow it to derail your progress. You set boundaries with love. You distance yourself from relationships that require you to stay small. You find and cultivate connections with people who support your new identity. Your vibe attracts your tribe, and as your vibe shifts, your tribe will naturally shift as well. There's a specific phenomenon that happens around day 7 to 10 of consistent sleep programming that I want you to be prepared for. I call it the testing phase. Your subconscious, even though it's been receiving new programming, will create situations that test whether you're really committed to this new identity or whether you're going to revert to the old one when challenged. You might face an unexpected expense right when you've been programming abundance. You might encounter a situation that triggers old insecurities right when you've been programming confidence. This isn't the universe working against you. It's your own system ensuring that the new programming is solid, that it can withstand real-world pressure. How you respond to these tests determines whether the transformation becomes permanent or temporary. The old you would see those challenges as proof that nothing is changing, that you're still stuck. The new you recognizes them as opportunities to prove to yourself that you have changed, that your new programming is real and solid and permanent. Let's talk about the importance of celebrating evidence, no matter how small. Transformation happens incrementally, and if you only acknowledge the big breakthroughs, you'll miss most of the magic and potentially give up before the full effect manifests. Every day, before you go to sleep to begin another night of programming, take 2 minutes to acknowledge what shifted today. Maybe you spoke up in a situation where you would have stayed silent before. Maybe you felt genuinely abundant, even though your bank account hasn't changed yet. Maybe someone complimented you and you received it instead of deflecting it. These small victories are actually huge victories because they're evidence that your neural wiring is changing, that your identity is shifting, that the programming is working. Acknowledging them reinforces the neural pathways and tells your subconscious to create more experiences like that. What you focus on expands, and when you focus on evidence of transformation, transformation expands. Here's something powerful about how transformation compounds over time. The changes you experience in week 1 are subtle. You might wonder if anything is happening at all. Week 2 brings slightly more noticeable shifts, maybe in your self-talk or how you respond to challenges. By week 3, people around you start noticing something different about you, though they might not be able to articulate what. Week 4 is when you start experiencing external manifestations, opportunities appearing, circumstances aligning, synchronicities multiplying. Month 2 is when the transformation feels natural, less like something you're trying to do, and more like who you simply are. Month 3 is when you look back at who you were before you started and barely recognize that person. The key is understanding that this is a compounding process, not a linear one. The effects multiply, they don't just add. This is why consistency matters more than intensity. Better to do this practice every single night, even imperfectly, than to do it perfectly for a few nights, and then stop. Now, let me address a question that often arises. How do you maintain transformation once you've achieved it? The answer might surprise you. You don't maintain it, you continue creating it. Transformation isn't a destination you arrive at and then coast. It's a continuous process of evolution. Even after you've fully integrated your new identity, you continue with sleep programming, but you evolve what you're programming. Once confidence becomes your baseline, you might start programming for even deeper levels of self-trust or leadership capability. Once abundance becomes natural, you might program for impact and contribution. Your capacity for growth is limitless, and sleep programming is a tool you can use for the rest of your life to continuously expand into greater versions of yourself. The person you become through this process is not your final form. It's your new baseline from which even greater transformation becomes possible. There's something I need to tell you about plateaus, because you will experience them, and it's crucial that you don't misinterpret what they mean. After a period of rapid transformation, you might hit a stretch where nothing seems to be changing, where progress feels stalled, where you wonder if you've reached your limit. This is not a stopping point, it's an integration point. Your system is consolidating the changes you've made, allowing them to become thoroughly embedded before the next level of transformation begins. Think of it like building a house. You don't build all the walls simultaneously. You build a floor, let it set and solidify, then build the next floor. Plateaus are the setting and solidifying phase. Continue with your practice during plateaus with even more dedication than during breakthrough phases, because this is when the real depth of change is happening beneath the surface. And then, often suddenly, you'll experience another leap forward, another level of transformation, another breakthrough that wouldn't have been possible without the integration that happened during the plateau. Let me share with you the ultimate integration practice, the one that ties everything together, living as if your new identity is already completely true, not in the future, not as a goal, but right now. This doesn't mean pretending your circumstances are different than they are. It means embodying the internal state of your desired identity, regardless of external circumstances. The abundant you can feel abundant before the money arrives. The confident you can feel confident before the achievements manifest. The loved you can feel loved before the relationship appears. Because the truth is, the external circumstances are just reflections of the internal state, not the cause of it. When you truly grasp this, when you stop waiting for evidence before you embody the identity, the evidence rushes to meet you faster than you can imagine. Your new identity isn't something you're building toward, it's something you're stepping into right now, today, this moment. As we come to the close of this journey together, I want you to understand something profound. You're not the same person who started reading this book. You're not even the same person who started this chapter. With every word you've absorbed, every concept you've understood, every moment you've allowed these truths to sink in, you've been changing. The transformation has already begun. Tonight, when you go to sleep, you're not starting something new. You're continuing something that's already in motion. And tomorrow morning, when you wake up, you're not going to try to be different. You're going to be different. Because that's how transformation works. When you do it right, it's not effort, it's emergence. It's not becoming someone new. It's revealing who you've always been beneath the layers of limiting programming. I'm going to tell you something that might sound impossible right now, but I want you to hold it as truth. 6 months from now, if you commit to this practice with consistency and faith, you will look back on your current life, and it will feel like a dream, like a movie you watched about someone else. The limitations you're experiencing now will seem absurd. The struggles that feel so real today will be distant memories. The person you are now will be a stepping stone to the person you're becoming, and that person will be a stepping stone to even greater versions beyond. This is not hyperbole. This is not motivation. This is the predictable result of working with your mind the way it's designed to work, of using sleep the way it's meant to be used, of claiming the power that's always been yours but was dormant until you learned how to activate it. Remember this: every master was once a beginner. Every person living their dream life was once exactly where you are now. Confused, limited, stuck, wondering if change was even possible. The only difference between them and those who stay stuck is that they found the right tools and used them consistently. You now have those tools. You understand the science. You know the methods. You have the roadmap. What you do with this knowledge is entirely up to you. But understand that doing nothing, staying the same, accepting your current limitations, these are choices just as much as transformation is a choice. And every night that you lay your head on your pillow, you're making that choice again. Are you going to use these 8 hours to reprogram yourself for the life you desire? Or are you going to waste them in unconscious repetition of the patterns that created your current reality? Tonight, as you drift into sleep, I want you to do so with absolute certainty that you are not just resting, you are transforming, with absolute faith that your subconscious is listening, learning, evolving, with absolute trust that the person you're becoming is already real, already alive within you, already guiding you toward the life you were meant to live. Let go of doubt, release resistance, surrender into the knowing that this works, not because I told you it does, but because you're about to prove it to yourself. Your transformation is not a possibility, it's an inevitability. The only variable is how quickly you allow it to unfold, and that depends entirely on how completely you commit to the process. Welcome to your new life. Welcome to your true power. Welcome to the you that was always waiting beneath the surface, the you that your soul has been calling you to become, the you that gets to wake up tomorrow and every day after living from a completely different paradigm. This isn't the end of our journey together. It's the beginning of yours alone. And I promise you, if you do this work faithfully, consistently, devotedly, the results will exceed anything your current consciousness can imagine. Because you're not just changing your thoughts, or your habits, or your circumstances. You're changing the fundamental frequency at which you operate. You're becoming a new person at the identity level. And when your identity changes, everything changes. Sleep well, transform deeply, and wake up ready to live as the magnificent being you were always meant to be. The best version of you is waiting on the other side of your next sleep cycle. Go meet them. They've been waiting for you your entire life.